Welcome back to Your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand. I'm Lisa McGuire, and we're here to explore how people create meaningful work by showing up as their full selves. Today's guest is someone who helps leaders do just that, especially when it matters most. Bill Ganon is a professional presentation coach, award-winning storyteller, and a keynote speaker who brings 3 decades of sales experience into his work by helping professionals communicate with clarity, confidence, and connection. He's also a TEDx coach, pitch mentor, and a multiple-time champion at the Moth. Whether he's on stage himself or coaching others to own theirs, Bill knows what it takes to craft a message that moves people. And he's bringing that presence to the Sell Well conference this fall as the event's official MC. So Bill, welcome to the show. I got myself so excited. Welcome to the show.
It's great. Thanks, Lisa. So really glad to be here.
All right. Well, Bill, we don't often hear presentation coach. What we typically hear are things like public speaking coach or communication consultant, but presentation coach feels very distinct. Why that title, and what does that really mean to you?
So the history, the evolution of what I did really, and what I'm doing today came from my sales experience. And I first came out of the corporate world, and this is back in 2015 when I started concentrating on my consultancy, because I've always had a real passion for presentations. And I've gone back to thinking back to my youth. I spoke in church and did some neat projects in high school and in college. And as I thought back on it, it's one of those things where there are all these presentations over my timeline that have made it clear to me that I kind of had a thing for them. I really liked making a big impact. After a sales career, I was still in the mindset of, well, be a sales coach, help people with their selling. And while I liked to do that, I didn't like doing all aspects of selling. I didn't want to talk about pipeline development and all the things that other good sales coaches spend time with. I was much more about the conversation. And somewhere pre-pandemic, somebody came up with the idea of communication coach, which sounded interesting too, because it sounded a little closer to what I was going to do. And oftentimes that gets confused with, oh, so you're in marketing, PR, and communication. Mm-hmm. Which I'm not. So there's a little bit. Then the pandemic comes and we all have to kind of step back, wait it out. And as I came out of that, presentation coach seemed to just land, because I believe presentations take the form of one-to-one meetings. They take the form of 1 to 1,000 at a conference. They take the form of your first TEDx speech, address to shareholders, and on and on and on. All of these, as I see, are presentation opportunities. So presentation coach just seemed to land, was the best stick the landing title I could come up with. And it's really worked well. People have started to resonate with it.
All right. So besides being the presentation coach, you're also a keynote speaker and an MC, which we're going to get to see here in a few weeks at Sell Well. Those are different types of stage presences. So how do those roles coexist alongside your role as a coach?
There was a time that I thought they were discordant. Like, how do you make sense out of these 3 titles? And then someone said to me, not that long ago, who is a very authoritative source in the event planner space. Now, let's face it, for all of us who get up in front of an audience, getting to know more event planners is a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. And this individual pointed out to me that, event planners really like the idea that someone can be a keynote speaker with an address and have the ability to pivot over to MC if that is a need, and might even be there as a presentation coach for someone else. And that individual made me completely 180 on this and go from seeing it as 3 problem areas into a nicely galvanized 3-pack of skills. And so today, even though I lead with presentation coach and keynote speaking. I'm happy to put emceeing right in behind it. And I think the people that are interested in keynote are also interested in MC.
Mhm.
I do think the two videos should be different, your reels, but the skills are kind of meshed. So I'm feeling at peace with that now. And I
Yeah.
can't say I always was.
Yes, I have a friend who she actually helps people find paid speaking gigs. And she was speaking to the fact that event planners, you may be a keynote speaker, but what happens if you have someone cancel a session? Like to be able to slide in and fill in there. Or you've got something that happens and they need another resource. You just suddenly become much more valuable to them with those other titles and roles and skills.
I just sent out an email to a number of event planners that are coming into Nashville, and I said, I'm your in case of emergency break glass contact. Because, well, speakers get sick, they cancel, things happen. And isn't it great to have this kind of resource? So, yes, you're totally on the money, Lisa. It's kind of a nice to have a little bit of those pivot skills if needed. So, it seems to be working well.
And what a great reputation to have in case of emergency, call Bill.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's
Better
great.
call Bill. I think that title's been taken by somebody. But
Yeah, I'm
anyway.
sure it has. So, so Bill, who are the types of clients who seek you out? Are they usually preparing for something specific, or are they just trying to become better at presenting overall?
The calls I get are generally from companies, and generally it'll be the training manager at a company or someone in HR related to training. And the call comes out pretty much as there's an executive that one of our senior executives would like to develop. And they think this individual is a very good contributor, is a good mind, has a lot of those smarts, but she may not be a particularly good presenter.
Mhm.
Or he may be such a bad presenter that the upper management executive colleagues kind of roll their eyes when the person has to get up there. Or their team feels very uh, oppressed when she speaks to them because she becomes overly detailed or overly explanatory about things that really can be done in a much more concise way. And it's amazing. You think to yourself when you hear these, but this person knows that category so well. How can that be a problem? And it always reminds me when I get these calls that these are huge career blockades,
Mhm.
that people will have a bigger challenge moving up if they can't become better, more conversant presenters.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of calls I get. That the clients generally come from companies who would like me to come in and work with an executive. And
Mhm.
then what happens is the company, if I'm fortunate, I if I've done what I'm supposed to be doing, then they'll recommend me possibly to another area of the company. And in the coaching world, that's really as good as it gets because then your pipeline is just sort of self-fulfilling. So that's that kind of client. The second really quickly is like a TEDx speaker. I got your name. I'm looking for a coach, someone recommended. And you know how this works, Lisa. And what we both do, and so many that'll be a sell well, referrals are the golden river. I mean, there is no better lead than a sincere referral from someone. So that's what I count on. But yeah, those are the companies who want the presentation skills to be better, and then also speakers who are getting ready for something big that need a little help on that talk.
Yes, and what I'm thinking when you're talking about this executive, yes, they are an expert in their field and they know their things and facts are facts and truth is truth. But when we look at it, they are being held back if they cannot deliver the message that will land with their audience, the message that will inspire or motivate or whatever the goal is.
Mm.
And I would imagine you've got these people who are very, they've climbed the corporate ladder or they've worked really hard to get where they are. And all of a sudden, someone's coming in to say, yes, you're good in this area, but You need to work on this a little bit more. I imagine you run into some mindset challenges with folks. Is that correct?
Anytime you challenge someone's acumen,
Yeah.
or tell them they're at a career node
Mhm.
uh, of you can go up or you might kind of stay on your level. There's naturally a defensive of some kind protective shell that you have to get through. And where I open is generally with something like this in that conversation. I'll say, look, here's the thing. When knowledge is relatively equal with your colleagues, the best communicators generally win.
Mhm.
And that line has been a fairly steady and effective mantra to help get their brain open, right? Yeah, as I call it, you got to let them, you have to get the drawbridge of the castle to come down before you can come in. And it's probably held up tight while they're protecting their own reputation, but it's only when they get open enough to drop it and say, I see what you mean, and then we can get to work on it. And what that means, better communicators, also has to be done in a really customized way. Because one of the things we want people to understand is I'm not interested in turning you into anything of a type.
Mhm.
I'm interested in making you the best presenter you can be. And I know you spend a lot of time, Lisa, on authenticity.
Yeah.
And that's a foundation of what I train on. I want them to have an authentic voice and
Mhm.
feel good about it. So it's critical you're taking them there and not, I want to turn you into some game show host or some kind of false presenter that isn't true to you. Otherwise, they'll suffer on stage or in a meeting.
Mhm. Yes, it will definitely come out if you're trying to perform and be someone you're not. It really is. And that leads me into looking at, I know, Bill, that you've said technology has made us more efficient, but it's also weakened our interpersonal communication skills. So, what are some of the biggest breakdowns you're seeing happening in companies and conversations today?
It's always a result of just too much technology.
Mhm.
There's a book that I use as almost my Bible. It's Cal Newport's A World Without Email. And I do recommend it to your reading and to your listeners and viewers that it's a wonderful, only about a 2.5-year-old book, so it's still very fresh, but it's all about how email became almost the work. We almost forgot about the work that's in the email because the work of managing the emails becomes so crushing.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big pothole for companies to have this email thread and MS Teams and Slack just become so prevalent. One of the great stories I love to tell is by a mentor of mine who's very successful serial CFO, has been with some big companies on big exits. But he tells a great story and he says he started at a company, one of the first things as this interim CFO. And the first thing he came to find out was there was a huge conflict of two employees that was causing a major issue. And as he finally dove into this, he said, I'm going to get this cleared up once and for all. And because these emails kept going back and forth, he came to discover they lived in the same town. Hang on. They are in the same building and they just never would get in front of each other. And the first thing he said was, he brings one down to the other one's office, opens the door and says, by the way, I think it's important you two meet. Good. All right, great. And I understand you haven't. No. And one of them was kind of new. So I guess there could have been a
Mhm.
reason there. But he said, you know what? Now you're together. I know there's been this issue. I think it's a good idea to get it worked out face to
Mhm.
face. The old close the door and work it out. That you can only imagine how many times that scenario is played out over so many different companies of we're so accustomed to texting and emailing and the ease of it and the people number of people we can bring in. We've stopped communicating,
Mhm.
really connecting, and turned it much more into checking the box of there. Okay. Even if I've caused a new problem, I've checked the box, I've sent my email. That has to be arrested to a degree. And this emphasis to bring people together has to be done as much as we can.
Yes, I really agree. I was in a meeting in person, face to face last week with someone that I had communicated, met on Zoom, all right? Had a colleague I brought in, and we really were trying to have a conversation. And we ended up having a breakfast meeting, and it was dynamic. And I said to my colleague later, I actually texted him and said, can you imagine the meeting if we had met online? It would not have turned out anywhere near as positive as it did. There's something about being in the energy of other people, the humanity of other people, where you are on a level playing field, just even like sitting down at a breakfast table, right? We're all eating our breakfast. It's something very human to do. We all do it, right? But
Right, right.
it frames the conversation.
It does.
Yeah, it really does.
And it's the dinner table issue that we're
Mhm.
hearing in homes. We can hear it in, this is why a lot of our worship centers are so much a refuge for people, because it is one of the places,
Mhm.
even though you hear the clergy now say, and for those of you joining us online, right, which
Yeah.
is certainly a way to keep it extended. But the comfort I have found comes from the people in the congregation interacting with each other. You can just feel that. And companies must be hearing this, because we're hearing that halcyon call back to the office. Some are wrapping it around productivity, some are wrapping it around social capital, whatever the
Mhm.
motivation you want to put there. They're realizing they're going to get more done if they know the people are in a place. And it's become that next kind of employment challenge. How do we keep good people or attract good people, and have to address the question, well, how many days in the week do you expect me to be in the office? Which, since I'm a man of a certain age, I remember that kind of question would be comical if you were right. Well, how many days do you want me in here, IBM? Okay, next. Who's it's a legitimate question today. So all of this has to get managed.
Yes, it really does. In doing my homework, Bill, before our conversation, one of your most talked about tools I discovered is called Orange Work.
Oh,
And so, from what I understand, it helps people move relationships from transactional to transformational, which
yeah.
I am all over. So, I want fill me in on it. What does it mean?
You did. You dug into some of my. That was actually during my sales training focus.
Uh-huh.
And what I would say about Orange Work was this: I would tell a sales team, and I'll still do this today if I work with a sales team. I'll say, picture your calendar. Okay, everybody, close your eyes. See your calendar. All right, that Outlook calendar, whatever. Okay, you see green events. Let's just call these green events. These are events that have everything to do with revenue.
Mhm.
Deals you're working on, deals you're following up on, deals that are in play and you're monitoring. So that's all green work. Those are take care of that client or develop that new client. Okay. Now let's think of, say, blue boxes. These are all the company boxes, meetings that you have to go to, reviews you have to conduct, all that stuff. Great. Now I want you to look at all the white space that's in that calendar, right? And they can all see it. I said, if you can find 2 hours a week to assign orange work, and here's what orange work is all about. And we talk about understanding their website. Today, it would be doing an AI study on them and asking them for a prompt about their competitors or their latest products. Or if I was doing it, what are other ideas I would have? And there are so many other orange things that you do here. The orange things of studying their LinkedIn. What are they saying in LinkedIn? Is it something that I should be following up on? Am I really up on them socially? Am I doing the work to understand the category as best I can so I can be smart? And I put them all in the helping area, right?
Mhm.
If you can devote at least a couple of hours a week, and of course more is better, but whenever you do it, maybe you do it Sunday night. Maybe your best work is Sunday night, 9 to 11 before you turn in, so you wake up. Or it's Monday morning, 6 to 9, where you wake up early and you get this jump on the week of getting your head, whatever it works. And like any discipline, practice and reps make a difference. You do this every week, and all of a sudden you're going to be communicating with your clients in a much more helpful way,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to the way that you communicate to them on revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to only hear a revenue persona come at them from you, because everybody else is a revenue persona. But you're the one where they go, Lisa, when she calls, it's always about something new or something
Mm-hmm.
interesting,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to the work we do. But she always seems to take time to find something. How does she do that? That's orange work.
Nice, nice. Oh, I really love this because it truly is getting to know someone. And just very much like I just asked you a question about your work, like when you know someone has done research on you, then
You just did it.
right, I just did it. I just
And it was
practiced my
great.
work.
It's the old joke, right? If you make it about them,
Mhm.
life is great, right? And I know we've all heard this. Yeah, you got to talk about benefits. You have to talk about,
Mhm.
but if you just take the paradigm for a minute of them, what's everybody's favorite subject? Right? Themselves
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and their companies. And the old joke is, well, that's enough about you. Sorry, that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the classic. I wrecked the joke. I wrecked the opening line, but you got the idea. That one has stayed around forever, and it's true, right? We have to keep the conversation on you, and that's what keeps your client interested, or your prospect, or frankly your colleagues too.
Yeah. So we're both going to be at the Sellwell Conference, September 11th and 12th in Houston coming up. And if you're hearing this episode after September 11th, well, folks, you missed it. So maybe you can come to the
Right.
next one. But
Right.
Sellwell is a B2B sales and networking conference. Now, when we hear the word networking, and at least like when I first started my business, networking to me was like I would run for the corner. I hated it because I didn't know what it was. But now I have turned into absolutely loving it. But one of the things that we think about with networking as we go to this is small talk. Something else in my homework is I found out you have a keynote called Small Talk is actually a big thing, which I
Mm.
love.
Yeah.
So why is it something that we should be paying attention to?
It has roots in everything we've actually spoken about up to now, but really good small talk involves you asking questions.
Hmm.
So often in networking, think about the charge, right? We're going to send you to a conference in Houston. Okay. At that conference, there's going to be supposedly 700 people there, right? And your job is to get to that conference. We're going to put you up at the hotel. We're going to fly you there. And your job is to go get customers. I want you to network and meet people. So often that's the charge. And what is the behavior that comes from that? Generally, someone who will, or with your teammates, work the booths, work the conference, or work the rooms. And what are you doing? You're getting people's attention. So what do you do? Then they say it, and you can't wait for them to be done so you can say what you do.
Right.
And then you whip out your card, you start talking about you and the company and the thing you've just built and why it's going to fix everything, not having any appreciation for what they just said they did,
Hmm.
or whether it would be aligned or not aligned with what you're doing. And no questions such as, that's so interesting that you do that. Do you ever find this as an issue? Oh,
Hmm.
as a matter of fact, we do. Because you have a solution to that, but it's not about you yet.
Hmm.
How do we get people to slow down and be inquisitive and ask good questions? And then, Lisa, follow-up questions.
Hmm.
Because follow-up questions are the superpower of small talk. Not just questions, but good follow-up questions, because it tells the other person you're listening, tells the other person you want to know more. That's why it's a big thing. And I tell you this, If you make it work in a networking conference, you're going to make it work at home. You're going to make it work with colleagues in your community. Being a good question asker and being a thoughtful listener when they do it are just such superpowers that are getting more and more run over. So that's why I believe small talk is such a big thing, and how it can pay dividends. Again, not just career. I think it pays dividends as a human being.
Yes, it really does. And I think the point is so well taken that when we get there, typically the easy go-to question is, what do you do? Well, I've got to the point where I don't ask that. It's, what are you excited about this week? Or is this your first time at the conf? Like, trying to come up with something different, just that will make you stand out, and it puts you on a different level. But asking the question and actually listening to what they say, it's the old game of catch, right? So I'm asking you a question, I'm listening to what you say, and then based on that, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, which I've been listening then, right? Like, think of the engagement, think of the relationship. I almost see like a web being formed, right? Like you're building that bridge to the other person. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. How do you go? I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
No, I was,
Okay.
it just triggered me on something that at the end of this, I'm going to direct you to a link that is a preview of my keynote. And in it, I talk about that for thousands and thousands of years, people have only communicated face to face. Thousands. We're going back to the pyramids. The only way to get anything done was to be in front of other people to talk about it. And it's astounding when you think about our thousands and thousands of years of mental DNA has been designed that way. And that really, even when the telephone was invented, that was just another new one-way to one-to-one channel. It happened to be automated in the way that to connect people long distance, but you were still talking and waiting. In fact, in the early days of long distance, you really had to listen because it wasn't a very clear connection. We don't even think that's even a consideration anymore today, but for a good time it was. And the whole point is it all broke down when email took over and started turning us into these rapid fire information machines. So take 30 years, late 90s to now, divide it back by 6,000 years, and you can see in this little micro sliver of time, we're fundamentally changing how we communicate. And the brain is still the 1.0 brain our ancestors got. We didn't get a 2.0 or a 3.0. So it's trying to react in this new way that has been so set for so long. So this dependency, this desire to connect and communicate, the brain recognizes. It's like, a question asker. Gosh, I love question askers. Please ask me another one, right? So I'm sorry, but when you said it, it made me think of that link. So you can perhaps give it at the end of it, but it'll be or listed somewhere.
You send that to me and we'll drop it in the show notes. We'll make sure that we have that in there. Well, I would be remiss if I did not ask you. I am a storyteller, and I understand you have won several storytelling awards, Bill, and they clearly have shaped your presence. Now, we can imagine as we're sitting in the stage at some conference and some event where the speaker takes the stage, and when they tell a story, we're just like, it sucks us in, right? But what can business people learn from storytelling, even if they never plan to step on a stage?
I don't think it's as complicated and as dramatically challenging as it sounds, right? Storytelling. So I need to understand a story arc, and I need to take I try to tell people, look, as a speaker, if you just remember that you're the guide and they're the hero, the stories will come a little more naturally. I'll just say that again. You want to be using the Star Wars, and there's a million of them. You want to be the Obi-Wan Kenobi up there, or the Yoda, right? You want to be guiding them through the course of what it takes to transform or to be better or to discover new pathways and horizons. The stories will come so much easier if you do lock into that and not make it about you. And here's an interesting story that's all about me. You want to say that these stories are there, but they're an illustrator about where you can go. Can you see how that story could project you into this role? Can you see that for yourselves? Those are the questions that people love. And I think rather than do a deep dive on storytelling, hold on to that paradigm of being the guide that make them the hero and taking them through their journey. And I think you're going to find the story just drops in strategically.
Yes, it's something that could be so natural. And when, think about it, when somebody says, I want to tell you a story, like you can almost see the bodies in the room start leaning forward, like, okay, I want to get into the story too. Like, I want to imagine if I were the character, what that would be like.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it just helps make points land so much better, right?
Yeah.
Even analogies, metaphors, similes, all these things from English 101 in high school and college come back to remind you this is how the brain retains things.
Yes.
It loves to think of, it's like for instance, I don't know if anybody goes to Buc-ee's, but my wife and I are now big Buc-ee's fans because we drive a lot to North Carolina to see our grandkids and family. And so we're always going by 3 or 4 Buc-ee's in the time. And for those who haven't had the experience, it's just the only thing I can describe it. And this is how I do it. Well, it is, first of all, a giant, if you will, rest stop because feels like 100 gas pumps. It feels like it has inside looks like a warehouse, like a Costco, but almost on a fast food, or I should say, just food, merchandise, everything else. And it's become a fascination for people. They stop at the little Buc-ee out front and they pose with the statue of the beaver. And I say, it's like if Walmart, Disney, and Trader Joe's came together and had a baby. And now people go, well, that's a lot easier to understand that whole rambling thing you did before that. Those analogies really just drop. And those are the proof points to say, see how a story can work even better? And the trick is, of course, to combine them in a way that makes the story and your presentation just kind of have some inertia and some momentum.
Yes, that's good. So you're going to be the MC of Sell Well, where I'm honored to be a speaker as well. So I'm going to be excited to be on the stage at some point.
Very excited to hear you as well.
Yeah. So what kind of energy are you hoping to create in the room? And what's different about this event compared to a typical business conference?
It's so interesting at Sell Well because as much as it is about good selling strategy, good lessons, the biggest good is the humans in the room. Gee, Bill, that's so sweet that you say that about other people. But hang on, before it sounds like a quilted pillow in the corner somewhere, the good human characteristic here is genuine interest in not only understanding what you do, but finding matches for what you do with other people, either at that conference or in their greater network. And I can only speak to this for emceeing last year's and being with this Good Humans Growth Network, which is the overarching organization behind Sell Well, and meeting these people not only before the conference, but during the conference and after the conference, and how that connects 6 months to a second conference that this network has called Grow, which will happen in February as well. But the point about it all is that these people are connected about not just to come and network and push their own stuff at all. In fact, you see and hear very little pushing at this. You hear a lot of how can I help you? As an MC, that opens the door for such bonding and such unification in the room that you don't have to make jokes about, I'm sure you're getting overly pitched, and I'm sure there's none of that. This is much more about how each other can just make each other great. And when that becomes an ethos of the room, when that becomes the DNA, an MC is like one of the best jobs you can have there because you're really just ushering that good vibrations throughout the entire conference. And this year it's going to be, as you know, 2 days instead of one from last year.
Yes, and just even more goodness. But yes, I saw that at the conference earlier this year. I was so impressed that it did not feel like a pitch fest at all. It was true, genuine concern and interest in who do you need to meet? And oh, I've got someone in my network I can introduce you to. So it really is, it's just so refreshing to
It
be.
is. It's going to be fun. And the theme is unshakable. And my biggest challenge right now as an MC is what is my walk up music? So I have to get my walk up music figured out. And you probably do too, to intro your case.
Okay. All right. I'll be working on
We'll
that.
have to, we all have to work on that. So.
All right. Very good. Well, Bill, if truly a lot of value that you can provide people, if someone needs to know how they can contact you, what's the best way to contact you?
www.theganongroup.com is my website. And as long as you spell Ganon with one N in the middle, you will always find me. Whereas two N's is the whole rest of the world. You're going to find a ton of GANNONs. Don't call them GANON and you find me. So with that said, my website is the best place to find me. In it, there's a contact sheet for keynoting, emceeing, coaching, whatever you want. There's an auto respond for that. We'll get you all locked in. And, my call out to you is, look, to anyone who wants this kind of booster in their presentation skills, we take it in a very personal, very casual way to just see what their needs are, see if there's a matchup. But if there is, sometimes people say, hey, can we keep going? Can we keep doing this for a while? I try to make them extremely customized to the needs of that particular client. And if it isn't you and you're listening and watching, and you know someone in the organization who can really stand to benefit from it, that works out too.
That's great. Well, Bill, thank you for being here and reminding us that communicating isn't about being perfect. It's about connection. And you've made the case so clearly that presentation isn't just a skill. It is a career accelerator and a personal differentiator. So thanks so much for being with us.
You're great, Lisa. Thanks so much. And thanks for what you do because it all feeds into that same great river. So thanks for your great work too.
Well, we are better together. And to everyone listening, if you're ready to level up how you communicate your value, your story, and your ideas, Bill is someone you're going to want to have in your corner. And if this conversation has you nodding your head, you're going to want to be in the room for SellWell 2025 in Houston this September. It's not your average sales conference. As you've heard, it is a business development experience rooted in relationships, referrals, and real conversations. Bill will be guiding us as that MC, and I'll be taking the stage as a speaker, and you'll be surrounded by other values-driven professionals growing their businesses with strategy and soul. So check out the show notes for all the links, and until next time, go chase your passion. It will begin to reveal your purpose and take you on the path to discovering your legendary self. We'll see you here next week.